All right, welcome to another Stifel webinar. Today is about AI workflow automation. We're going to use Cloud Cowork. And as always, I would like Jonathan to tell us a little bit about Stifel.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Danny. So I'm Jonathan Moe, I'm VP in the New York office here in Stifel Venture Banking. If you've heard of Stifel, we are one of the largest banks in the United States, half a trillion on deposit currently. We have a very large investment bank, which I think is maybe a little better known than our much smaller unit here in venture banking. But we also have one of the nation's top wealth management arms as well. So we're a fully integrated financial services firm. In terms of my group, we have offices here in New York. We also have a larger office actually in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. We are the bank for the venture ecosystem. So we bank startups from any phase, whether they're pre-seed, A, B, C, all the way to IPO, and bank the VC firms to invest in them. So for startups, we offer the full suite of early stage banking services. So think things like deposit, treasury, we plug into your treasury system. We pay yield on deposits. We're currently paying 345 bips. So if you're not getting that from your current bank, I highly recommend looking at that. It adds up very quickly. Um, and we're, of course, FDIC insured. We are part of a consortium of banks that protects deposits up to 275 million. So, I think that's kind of our banking platform. I think the second thing I would say is we do venture debt. So this is mostly for companies that have raised their at least a seed round, typically from institutional type of venture capital firms. We have an entire credit team here, as well as other locations, who will examine the company. They work with you as the founder. If the company's a little larger, maybe the CFO in particular, to explore sort of how vendor debt may be helpful to you. It's a very plastic and customizable type of product. Kind of none of the no two venture deals on the debt side really look exactly the same. But we're willing to work with you. We do anywhere from 500,000 up to 50 million in venture debt, again, at different stages. Most founders find and boards find the non-dilutive aspect of venture debt to be very appealing. It does provide the company generally with a little more runway, uh, and can also be used, of course, for other purposes. Some companies use it more as kind of round insurance, as for the raise their next round, keeps more running. Other companies do use it a little bit more aggressively for operations, and, building out, let's say, higher plants and like that. Yeah, and then the third thing I would say is, we hold a lot of events. We're extremely active in the ecosystem. We hold events for our clients. We hold events, both founders and investors. We hold events for future prospects, and we also hold a variety of very private events, mostly for sort of VC clients. Which leads me to the last thing I'll say. I'm not sure if we have investors on the call or future investors, but we also bank hundreds of venture capital firms. So we are their bank. We also offer them different types of credit products, things like capital call lines, for instance. And then I guess, I think on top of all that, again, for the fund, we also run a lot of the ecosystem for them. In that case, a lot of that takes the form of finding, sourcing interesting companies for them, helping them connect with LPs, so their investors, as well as helping arrange introductions with ecosystem players like law firms, outsourced accounting services, etc. So yeah, that's us. If you're interested in opening kind of bank account with us, or you're a startup and you just want to talk to me, yeah, really, I was an investor for about 7 years. I've seen about 25,000, well, at least 25,000 decks. So I do a lot of kind of advisory on those startups and seed stage. Happy to have that conversation. So feel free to say hi. I think our new day.
Yeah, yeah, good catch. Do you still do the one-on-one coaching with the founders to review their decks, or you do
We
that?
yeah, I will certainly do it. I'm happy to do it. If people want to do that, just email me. I'll give you my email because our bank limits our ability to use the chat function. It is MOJ, so my last name and my first initial, so MOJ at stifelbank.com. I could send it in the Loom blast after as well as I often do.
Yeah, I just shared that in the chat as well for you
Oh,
guys.
okay.
So thank you, John.
Oh, you have the chat? I don't think we can see that, or at least I can see it.
Can people see the chat or no? Thumbs up if you can see it.
That would be
Yeah, we can see
oh,
it.
oh
Okay.
that would be
It's
neat. Okay,
visible.
It's there.
All right, cool.
okay. It must just be me then. That's weird.
Well, that is Jonathan's email. Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, cheers.
All right, a little bit about me. I've been coaching startups for about 9 years now, more than 200 startups, and then about like 2 years ago, delved deeper into the AI enablement space. I've been teaching starting with like the part where I know the best, which is like product and UX, AI integration into the workflows in there, and then helping other functions for AI enablement. And I've been teaching this webinars, like facilitating this. I don't know how many months now, like Jonathan, few months, at least like 3 months, 4 months, right?
No,
Uh,
no, I'd say longer than that, like 6 months.
oh, probably. Yeah. So yeah, so I work with some of these, and this is an interesting and exciting times for a lot of us. Can be scary as well, of how we need to re-examine how we work. And that leads directly to why we are here, right? So why this matters now. So maybe like last month or 2 months ago, Claude released Cowork plugins and repeatedly just crashed the market. The SaaS sector panicked. I remember one when they released one for the legal industry and legal Zoom dropped like crazy. And then another one when they released something else for I think like productivity and Monday.com dropped. It was crazy. And you'll see why. Because this is changing the way we see SaaS also, software as a service. Now, this webinar is going to be quite basic for some of you who have been doing this because this assumes that you have only started in your AI journey. Hopefully, you will still find this useful. Okay, in today's journey, there are 5 levels of AI automation that we want to look at, ranging from get AI to do tasks with tools, and then to make it repeatable, and then to reuse the capability, and then use pre-made capabilities, and then have it work while you sleep, right? And for this, we'll use the same workflow, if you will, or same task of doing competitive intelligence, competitive analysis, so that we could see how it progresses. So the very basic thing, what is a workflow? So if you've created workflow automation with Zapier, N8N, Make.com, or like Power Automate that Jennifer mentioned, you'll know that there's the basic thing is like there's a trigger, an event that happens, and then it does things, the action, and then it spits out an output that ideally meets the outcome of the objective that you want, right? Was delivered. So for example, for every Monday, this is like the time-based trigger. There's a research the competitors and then email the brief, right? And then we get the output as the email, the brief of the competitors, the competitive landscape where we at. Pretty simple, and then it can get complex really fast because we can chain them. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of AI agents, agentic. We've been hearing this a lot. If you're in New York City, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this on the subway, like Gen Spark and all these other ones, like agent. What makes an AI system agentic? Well, an AI agent needs to have obviously the LLM, the brain, but the LLM, large language model, can only deal with text by default, like the way it's created. It's just the brain. It needs the body, right? And in order for it to accomplish tasks for us, it needs tools. And this is something that you probably have been hearing as MCP, and interchangeably it's called connectors in some places, including in Claude ecosystem. they use it in some places. Actually, they're not being very consistent, which I will show you in a minute. Some places they use connectors on the surface, but then when you go deeper, you want to debug, sometimes it's still called MCP. But they're the same thing. Essentially, these are the tools, like tool set that the LLM then can use to accomplish tasks. The other two things that the agent needs to actually accomplish the task are, one, knowledge, right? The context around it. What are we doing? What is the scope of this thing? And the second is memory. So the memory, a lot of times it depends on how it's set up. It could be, in most cases, contained within a session, so that it would remember, so you could complete multiple steps of completing the task and loop back again to assess its outcome, to see if it's achieving the objective. If not, then it loops back and continue the process again. So that's why it needs the memory. So if it's got these four things, then the system could be agentic. Now, in order for this to work, the harness, the AI program, if you will, the AI body, like for example, Cloud Cowork or Cursor, ChatGPT, these things will need to have that looping capability that I mentioned, so that it could reevaluate its output and continue on. Okay, so for our example, for today's webinar, we're going to use competitive intelligence. We'll build the same workflow 5 different ways. What we want is to research the competitors and then positioning brief, right? And I'm going to show you the raw prompt first, and then we'll use that for these different ways to automate it more and more. Okay, I'm going to drop this in the chat so you guys can follow along with me, because this is a long one. I'm gonna drop it in pieces actually, because this is a long one. Okay, I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to explain what was in here, and then I'll continue on. Okay, so first thing is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We give the AI role. You are this, which is a competitive intelligence analyst for digital marketing team. What's interesting is that because the LLM is like a neural network, it's like a brain, depending on how we prompt it, it goes a certain path and uses certain part of its training that's relevant to the prompt that we give it, because it's a probabilistic system. So every single time, it's like throwing a dice, see like, okay, what is the closest possibility of achieving the goal that the user wants, right? So giving the AI a role limits that and direct it in a certain direction. The task, research competitors and generate a positioning brief that helps our team understand the competitive landscape and identify opportunities. Now it's pretty clear, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what the goal is. And then the context, right? And for the context, this is something that we could use to make it more reusable, is to give it this prompt, which is ask me these questions. Because every single time, then we can focus on different things, right? For example, overall positioning, feature set comparison, UX design, and whatnot, right? And all these different things. So this is the question to ask. And then number 2 is about the competitors. Do you have specific competitors in mind? If no, then do this, right? So this is almost like just creating a flow of what it should do. Then proceed with analysis. So I gave you guys those 2 things, and I'm gonna give you the rest, which is the output. Let's see if Zoom will take all of these. Okay, so you got the entire prompt now. So okay, the next part is how do I want the output so I can use it, right? So I want the output in this manner, executive summary, 3 sentences, so that it doesn't go on and burn my token. Overview of competitive landscape and key takeaways. Comparison matrix in this manner, right? Basically, these are the column labels and then the values, right? And then individual competitor deep dives. For each competitor, do this. Overview, focus area analysis, positioning analysis, competitive assessment, and then give me this table again. So this is going to be the format that I want from it, and also strategic recommendation, only 3. And then again, start by asking me about the focus area and competitors. Okay, let's try this. I'm gonna open Claude now. So I'm gonna go to co-work here, cover this. So the thing with co-work, for those of you who are new to this, is that it is limited to work within a certain folder. So in this case, I'm gonna create a new, choose a different folder. I'm gonna create one folder. So everything that it does will be in this folder. So it's not going to mess with everything else. Now, the only thing that could be limiting to us here is that if let's say I want to reference something that's outside of this folder, I would need to add that folder to this by doing, where is it? Oh, no, not here. I would have to do it this way. Manage connect. Or is it here? Choose a different folder, create new project. Yeah, you would need to add it separately. Now, let me just drop this whole thing. Let me just move this out of the way a little bit. Just really quickly, this is the discrepancy I mentioned earlier. It's talking about MCP for Brevo, which is marketing, email marketing. That needs my attention. But then here, the same thing is called connectors. That Brevo thing is supposed to be somewhere here if it's available. Anyway, so these are the tools that I have available, right? So to enable it, you need to go here, connectors, add connector or manage connectors, and then you can enable it from this list. There's like a lot. This is not the complete list. There are also other connectors / MCP that are available online that are not part of this list that you can add. So that's the connectors. In this one, we don't need any specific connector because it's just going to use the web fetch to go online, which is part of the Cloud Cowork harness already. So I'm just gonna drop this entire thing. And then it's going to start by asking us a question. Now, Cloud has this really nice UI that it generates on the fly. It's actually, I think it's a skill or a feature for asking us questions in this really nice multiple choice interface. So here, but these are things that if you go back to the prompt, the things that we specify, gonna go back, focus area here. Overall positioning, feature set comparison, and so on, right? It doesn't include the UX design, customer experience, technology performance. So sometimes it doesn't follow it exactly. Something to look out for. It's going to go back and I'm going to say overall positioning. And this is again, competitors is number 2, right? I'm going to say find them for me. And then it's going to ask me about the industry I'm in. So let's say I'm going to use AI coaching. Now with this, you'll see that with Cowork, it has the progress here. Normally it would create the plan and then it would execute that. And you'll see that it's using the connector web search. That's what it's using, the tools. And you can see these are the websites that it's using as the sources that's for this particular task. Now I'm going to make this smaller again so that I could show you guys how this compared to the prompt, right? And which company competitors should I include in an iPhone 5 strong top 3 enterprise players? Okay. I just want 3 for the sake of this. Now for this, you don't need Opus in most cases for a task like this. The default Sonnet is more than enough. In some cases, you could even get away with Haiku if it's a lighter task that doesn't require a lot of thinking. And you can see the progress here now is researching these 3 things, and then it's adding a new thing, a new action item on the to-do list on the progress here. Now in the output format, you see here, the company that's trying to start with this, but then it's going to give us this comparison matrix pretty soon with executive summary. You see executive summary, comparison matrix, right? So it's following here. And then individual competitor deep dives, which is this. Following these different things, competitive assessment, and then we'll see the competitive gaps and opportunities pretty soon after this. And there it is, competitive gaps, opportunities, and then recommendations. And then it also cited the sources, which I think is something that's fairly new to Cloud Cowork, but that's very useful to make sure that it's not hallucinating. Any questions before I continue? No? Okay. So the main thing here is that instead of using the tool as just an answer machine, essentially just one off like Google, we could give it multi-step tasks like this. This is something that would have taken us maybe at least an hour to get to this, or even more, right?
Danny,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. Just a question about that. Because I obviously we've talked about this a few times before, but when you say you're doing multi-step, I guess I want to wrap my head around that. Like you basically you're giving it a prompt that has multiple steps,
Right.
right? So that's not quite the same thing though as let's say calling multiple instances of call. You know what I mean? In other words, one thing I've been interested in is I want to take, let's say, the 4 steps, right? You have 4 there, right? And I would want to technically open 4 different threads, right? So I use GPT, not Claude, and I don't want to get confusing here. But like, point is there a way to feed it 4 separate parallel uh, threads rather than because we gave it in one prompt,
Yep.
so obviously it eats the context of all 4 at once. and it produces what you showed. But
Mhm.
in theory, it would be better. Well, I don't want to say better. It would be more computational, let's say, right? If I opened four different threads and gave it each step, right, individually, and then merged them,
Not
if that makes sense.
necessarily, because then
Okay.
the then you would still need to connect the dots, right? The
Well,
node.
yeah. There would still be there would be an integration step where I'm just wondering because I did this basically like I did it the more I didn't use cowork, but same idea though. Like I have a multi-step problem. I had the LLM, I opened multiple threads, gave it all the steps separately. And the reason, by the way, for that was actually to isolate the context of each step, right?
Mhm.
So unlike here where the prompt is a single prompt, it gets all four steps. I actually wanted it to treat each step separately and then merge them. So then I called the LLM, a fifth time, let's say, so after the four, and then I had it. Okay, I gave it all four responses. I was like, just merge all this stuff together. Anyway, I'm just wondering, like, is that something Claude Cowork also does, or is it more just the prompt has multiple steps and it executes them?
You could do it, but it's not within this
Okay,
structure.
okay, got it. That's what I was wondering.
So one way to do that is in this, well, we'll show that in the next step, actually, using system prompt, and then you can combine different skills potentially.
Ah, yeah, okay, skills, yes. Okay, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna get to that. So that's a good preview. Okay, so we created this, right? We use this really long prompt. If we want to do this again, one way is to just save the prompt and do this, right? So now we're going to get to the next level, which is, let's say we want to repeat this. So every single week we want to do this, and we don't want to have to copy and paste the same thing. Or maybe we want to run, let's say, 4 different threads at the same time, but different industry. How do we do that? So how can we reuse this prompt, right? So the way we can do that is we can utilize this thing called projects. So this project is, it's interesting that they use the word project for the labeling, but this is the most basic form of AI agent. So we can start from scratch and we can give it a name, AI, I'm gonna say competitive intelligence agent. Now there is this instruction in a lot of cases, in some places they're called system prompt. So this is the instruction that the prompt that the AI will look at first before the prompt that we give it in the text box. Right? So every time we start a task, then it would look at this thing first to understand, okay, what is my role? What am I supposed to do? Da, 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 before we give it the task. And again, we have the project here. I'm going to choose the same project that we identified, that we used earlier here. And I'm going to drop the same prompt, the complete prompt here, create. Now, here we have a few different things. One is the folder here, the connectors, and we'll talk about skills and plugins in a moment. And then, of course, the attachment. And this is ask before acting or act without asking. So if you just started doing this, I recommend keeping it as ask before acting to know what tools that it would use and give permission to only whatever it needs. Because sometimes it would want to use different, you want to get access to different things, want to use different tools that you may not want it to use. And then this is the model, obviously, and this is where the instructions is. So you can edit it this way, right? Again, it's the same thing. Now, if we run this, so the memory is here, context is here. If we run this, I can just say start. Then it would start the entire process again without me writing the prompt. It's going to use that ask users question skill, the same thing that we had earlier, right? I'm gonna say pricing, packaging. find them for me, and then it's gonna ask me what industry again. AI coaching. It's the same thing, right? But the benefit of using this container, if you will, this structure is that I don't have to repeat it over and over. And also within this project, it will remember, it will have the memory of previous thread. So while this is running, I could go up here and I could do another one. And I'm going to show you. So these two are running. This is almost like my inbox. Then I can do, it's going to use the same thing. And I'm going to say this one, marketing and messaging, right? Find them for me. AI coach. Oh, I can't type apparently. Coaching again. And as you can see, I could run things in parallel. I don't know how many, I haven't tested it, like the max amount. I don't know if anyone knows. But this way, you could just like launch this different thing, boom, 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 with the same one. Any question about this?
You could just also set up the industry AI coaching as part of the instruction, right? So you don't have to kind of type it, or do you want to leave it like that? So it's actually in case you want to do for other industries.
Yeah, so in this particular use case, it's generic, so I could use it for other industries. But if you're only focusing on, let's say you're working for a company, not like a digital marketing agency, and you just want to focus on your industry, then you can put it in the system prompt, in the instruction as well. So that way you don't have to put it in every single time. Any other questions? So this one is probably asking me something. Oh no, it's still running. This I guess inbox kind of paradigm is becoming more common now. I know that Cursor has this, anti-gravity has this. Oh, this one does this dot. It needs something from me. There it is. I'm just gonna have top. I'm just gonna say disruptors only. Now, by default, Cloud Cowork likes to use Microsoft products, Word and PowerPoint. In my experience, they spend more token on creating these things because it's using the tools. Better to just, in some cases, to just ask it to create an MD file, a markdown file. Steve is asking, how quickly would something like this run through a Cloud Pro plan's tokens? So I'm on Cloud Pro. I think it depends on things like the tool usage and the kind of tool. For example, if it's instead of using the web search, if it goes to the actual website using the browser extension and take pictures, take screenshot, and then have to understand the visual and turn it into something that it understand, that would burn the tokens so fast. So understanding that could help, but something like this, because it's just using the web search, it doesn't really burn that much token. Could it be a Cloud.md prompt to optimize all actions for, well, CloudMD is normally on, like here, instruction, is on the project level. You could, but I think it would be better to actually use it as a skill instead of a Cloud.md, because then the skill could be used across the board from all things, which we'll talk about in a minute. Actually, this one blue means that it's already done. There it is. And then we can preview it. Oh, it's actually creating something. See, something like this, right? This is the kind of thing that could burn token really fast because I actually don't care for a fancy looking Word document, but it decided that, oh, let's turn it into a Word document and it burns token. If it was just an MD, then it would have been faster and also quote unquote cheaper on the token usage. Let's see if there's another Word document. Yep. Now here's another thing. You could see that the output, even though they're both Word document, they're not consistent. Right? Oh, this one, and where was it? Is it the same one? Oh no, this one is longer and it has some of these things. You need to actually sometimes give it the example. So that's why here in this context, we could also give it an example of the output that we want, or even the template that we want it to use. Okay, now moving on to the level 2. Let's say the capability like this, we want to use it more across multiple projects. We could just ask it to turn it into this thing called skills. So I'm going to show you where it is. So here under customize, we look at connectors. Now we're going to look at skills. Skills are essentially just another empty file, another instruction for the LLM to follow that is reusable across multiple projects. So you can just refer to it in your project system prompt, which turn into Claude.md, right? That's the first thing that Claude would read whenever it works on a project. So what it is in the raw format, it looks like this. So essentially just text with some basic formatting, like this is for headings and so on, right? This is for, I think, either italics or bold. And this is like solid. This is just bullet points, right? This is something like this is something that we created with some people. We're working on AI UX Summit, and this is one of the things that we built recently. And to create this is actually super easy. What you gotta do is we're gonna create one. Oh, first we can browse skills that are available, MCP Builder, algorithmic, and one of the things that are that's available out of the box is skill creator. So we can have it create a skill, we can have it create an MCP. That's what makes this so powerful. Now, what we're gonna do is actually we're going to create a new one. Create skill, create with Claude. So we could also just we could create this step by step, but I'm just gonna drop the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to walk you through the prompt. Okay, actually, I'm gonna go to our project. Sorry, I got pushed out. So because this has the memory, the context of what we did, I'm gonna give it here. Turn our competitive analysis workflow into a reusable skill called competitive intel. The skill should, and then it has the structure, the workflow. Now, if you don't have this, you could just go through that step-by-step process. Just ask it, I want to create a skill for this. Ask me questions to help you create the skill, right? In this one, the skill will be like workflow, ask about the focus area, like what we did, about the industry, the competitors, analyze, generate this, and then output structure like this, and then the input, right? Now, this is where we can potentially connect it with other things. For example, after creating this competitive workflow, then create a content strategy, right? So that could be another skill potentially. So you can see it's using the skill creator skills. I didn't have to tell it because it knows that it has that skill. And what it's writing is simply this thing called skill.md. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Steve. Cloud usage tracker. Yeah, this could be as you work with a lot of these tools, you could start seeing how like efficient some of these tools are versus others, or the different approaches that could yield better result with less token. No, it's writing almost 8,000 characters for the skills. Interesting. I guess it's being very, very verbose. So now creating eval task cases and run item. So it's running 3 test runs with skills plus 3 without skills simultaneously to run this, and it has the sub agent. So this is something that I didn't have to tell it. It's part of the harness. When it's creating something like this, that's part of the skill creator skill, it would test it. And it has the ability to run these behind the scene, these sub agents to do these things. You can see eval 0 baseline, this, this, to make sure that it's robust. You could empty as if we could ask as part of this process to optimize the skill for token usage. You could. The only thing is that sometimes it takes it. Oh, look at that. Session limit 90%. Hopefully I can finish this before I reach
We
my
didn't practice this. That was like on point.
yeah. So with this, sorry, I lost my train of thoughts. Oh, yes. You could do that, but the problem with optimizing for cost essentially is that it could potentially sacrifice the quality. Right? So I would recommend getting the quality first before you optimize it for the token cost, or else it would just take shortcuts and your the quality of the output may not be good. And especially for something like this, the skill creator handle like it is using the best practices from Anthropic. I would just trust this, but then once I use it, if I notice it's pretty bloated, then that's when I have Claude help me evaluate it for efficiency. It's interesting how now token conversation is pretty common. A few months ago, no one cares about tokens. And I was like, oh, tokens, tokens. Okay, so while this is working, I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, I'm gonna continue. I'm going to just show you the pre-made capabilities. These are the ones that the plugins that crash the market, the SaaS market. So plugins are here. These are plugins, right? What plugins are essentially, just gonna go to legal. They are a collection of the skills, like pre-made things for us. That's like already bundled together so that you could quickly use the command line. I mean, the slash commands, not slash commands. Like for example, legal risk assessment. So you can just type that legal risk assessment after you added the legal. plugin, then it would know that this is what it should run. Right, so this is the skill. So pre-made skills for us. And in the skill, sometimes it also specify other skills to use or the connectors to use, the tools to use. For example, if we could also do that, like let's say for our competitor intelligence thing, if we don't want it to use the browser extension, we specify use this. Is it 100%? No, unfortunately, because it's probabilistic. But in most cases, it would follow that. So this is the plugins, right? The plugins area, and it's very easy to add. You just go here, browse plugins, the same thing. We have a lot of these. And also you could create plugins, right? Upload your plugin, create with Claude, just chat with it, and it would create it for you. At Marketplace, different way, zero setup out of the box. The idea is this is to empower the people in those functions. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show you is scheduling. So we saw that a little bit in the project. So this is still working. Wow. So if I go back to the project here, schedule right here, right? We could just tell it, this is the, like, for example, weekly competitive intelligence, give description, and then we could just run the skill here. Give it the scope, the context, and then set the frequency weekly, you save it, and it would run every week while you sleep, right? You don't even have to initiate it. And it would use the same thing that we have set up here, and it would just put it in that folder. Or if you want to use the connector to send you an email or send you an alert, you can always do that as well. Questions? Oh, are you using adaptive or is that turned off in regards to quality efficiency? Would you suggest keeping adaptive turned on? Okay. So the adaptive is part of this adaptive thinking. I have it turned off because I haven't seen the difference, to be honest, and I normally have a good idea of how much thinking that I wanted to use. That's why I haven't turned it on. So for those of you who are not familiar with this is essentially allowing the model to assess the complexity of the task and choose how much thinking to allocate to completing the task. Steve, have you used it? I'm curious if it's actually, so you use it, is it working better for you than choosing the model manually? Sometimes, but I don't notice the difference either. Okay. Yeah, the same thing. With that, any other questions? We are at 57. We got a couple more minutes. Jonathan?
Uh, no, I don't have any questions. I guess what are you sharing the recording?
I will be. Uh, I will post it I will blast it once I've uploaded it.
Cool.
Well,
Okay. I guess that's good. Danny, thank you so much. Always appreciate you. Oh wait, always appreciate you running these. We also have obviously future webinars, so check the Luma page. And we also have an in-person workshop as well. That'll be coming up a few weeks, I think. So yeah, it's all on our Luma calendar. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming. We always love holding you.
see you guys again. Thank you.